An ugly win, still a win for the San Francisco 49ers on Monday Night Football against the Carolina Panthers. Biggest takeaways from this game, and of course, we're giving out game balls for a big victory against a team that had playoff hopes. Did they belong in that conversation? We'll talk about it on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Coach Crocky. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Love our everydayers. Thanks for hanging with us, and thanks for making us the #1 sports podcast network. We love you. Appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button. We're talking 49ers big win on Monday Night Football, 20-9 over the Carolina Panthers. This episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by FanDuel. And right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the FanDuel app. 20-9, the final croc as the 49ers defeat the Carolina Panthers. And despite 3 interceptions thrown by Brock Purdy, I think this was one of those games. And look, Purdy still threw the ball 32 times in this game, only for 193 yards, a touchdown, 3 interceptions. Not his best game. I want to talk about some of these interceptions. And Kyle actually had some comments about those interceptions on his way out to halftime. And I think it's a really important conversation to have about Brock Purdy and what it means and why it's not a big deal, but why it's still part of Brock Purdy's game. But the big picture here for me, Croc, in this one, watching this game was, I think at a certain point, and I think probably everybody watching the game, all the 49ers fans, probably a lot of Panthers fans as well, watching this game, kind of started to realize, look, I don't think you have to get cute. Just turn around and hand the ball off and leave with a dub. I think was kind of the vibe that you started to feel around this football game, because I think the Carolina Panthers were a team that, while they were in the playoff conversation at 6-5 and they deserved to be there record-wise, they're not that good. And I watched this team, and it's like, you get into the football game, and it's like, throw 5 interceptions. I don't care. I'm not afraid of the Carolina Panthers. What is Bryce Young going to do to you? He did hit the 1 touchdown pass to Tedero McMillan, but that was only 1 of 2 catches for Tedero McMillan in this football game. And they just didn't threaten the 49ers in a way that you felt like, oh man, this game could get out of hand. Even with the interceptions, the 49ers, it never felt like this game was going to be a problem for them really from the start, after that really long first drive where they gave the ball to Christian McCaffrey like 9 times and then finished it off with a Juwan Jennings touchdown. It just never felt, even with 3, usually you would say, okay, your quarterback throws 3 interceptions, this game could go sideways on you. It never felt like they were in danger at all at any point in this game.
Never felt like the 49ers were in danger. And, man, talk about that first drive real quick. I mean, I think the execution was essentially at an all-time high. They were in very situational, or they played really good situational football on that drive, taking what the defense gave them. I really like the Christian McCaffrey dumping off to him on the edge. He picks up a first down, right? Gets to the sticks. There was a lot of that. And then to finish it off with Juwan Jennings catching the ball, breaking multiple tackles and running into the end zone. I'm like, okay, 49ers are setting the tone for how they're going to play. We're going to take what you give us. We're going to be more physical than you. We're going to finish plays, and we're just going to drive it down your throats. And I thought that was awesome. And then after that, certain things started kind of getting away from them a little bit. And you started to see offensively some things maybe not quite go as planned. And even within that, I thought the defense did a terrific job early in this game, getting the ball back for the 49ers and keeping the Panthers off the board to where the 49ers can still kind of play whatever style of game that they wanted to play. So I would have liked to see a little bit more of the first drive throughout the game. And I saw a video, I think it was on Instagram, and it was somebody interviewing a head coach. And it was like, hey, why don't teams do their first scripted plays, right? Like those first 10 to 15 plays that are scripted. Why don't they run that script back if it works? I think this would have been a good time for the 49ers to do that in this game.
I talk about that all the time. Like, turn it upside down, maybe run it backwards or something. Just run the same plays that worked really well. And part of it might be the order that they're in is part of it too. But yeah, I'm with you on that. And they just ran right down the field on the Carolina Panthers and scored. And then again, despite the Brock Purdy interceptions, things did not get away from the 49ers. I want to hold off on the Brock Purdy conversation because I think first game ball has to go to Christian McCaffrey. Got the ball 30 times again. Look, game ball to whatever happened, whatever treatment he got in Germany last year, right? I don't know if that's the secret, but like I say it every single week. I don't know if he can handle this workload. It's kind of crazy, but they're leaning on him and they're giving him everything, and it's working right now. And so, and I understood it a little bit more earlier on in the year when there was no Pearsall, no George Kittle. It's like, what else do? You got to give the ball to somebody, and you're missing just about everybody. At this point in the season, 24 carries for Christian McCaffrey, 89 yards, again, 3.7 yards per carry, which is his average on the year. So nothing spectacular in the run game, but he's handling the workload, and he had the score on the ground. He had 7 more catches for 53 yards. So again, over 100 yards from scrimmage again for the 10th out of 11 times this year, and or 10th out of 12 times this year. 12 games, right? 8 and 4. Yeah. 12 games this year. 10 times he's gone over 100 total yards. And the touchdown run. So game ball to Christian McCaffrey right off the bat. But I think game ball to the offensive line in this one, Croc, because we haven't been super glowing about the offensive line this year. And they really cleared a path, especially on that touchdown run. They kept Brock Purdy clean despite the picks. This wasn't him running for his life. 0 sacks given up in this game. 1 sack total, which is kind of what we expected with 2 teams that were the worst in the league and in the pass rush department. Bryce Young sacked once by Clelin Ferrell. Brock Purdy sacked 0 times. The 49ers were able to handle things on the ground. And not only did Christian McCaffrey carry the ball 24 times, but Brock Purdy had 6 carries himself, and Brian Robinson had 7 carries. He was over 5 yards per carry, 7 for 40 yards there. So really just pounding the rock in this one. And it's always easy to do that when you're ahead of the sticks and when you're ahead on the scoreboard. But I thought the offensive line played really well. And I don't think it's necessarily just because Ben Barch is back and kind of been a solidifying left guard for the 49ers. But I feel like Dominic Puni has gotten healthier as the season has gone along, and they're probably playing their best football up front right now.
Yeah, no, the 49ers played very well up front, especially kind of opening up some of these run games, or at least giving the 49ers running backs some opportunities to at least get to the line of scrimmage without making contact with the defender. And you saw that early and often. I really loved the way that Brian Robinson ran the ball in this game. He was a very physical back. There were several times where he was getting hit at the line of scrimmage, and I'm thinking like, okay, like that's it, right? He's getting hit right around the line of scrimmage, and he kind of spins off, forges his way forward for another few yards. And you saw that with his 7 carries for 40 yards in this game. We've talked about a lot about the split between the 2 running backs, the amount of carries and touches Christian McCaffrey is getting. I believe he had 9 or 10 touches on the first initial drive, so he's touching the ball a ton right off the bat. But would have liked to see Robinson get a little bit more involved. If Christian McCaffrey gets 24 carries, can we take about 5 of those away and give about 5 to Brian Robinson? So now Robinson's around 12 and McCaffrey around 19. I think that would have been a little bit better balance to continue to try to keep Christian McCaffrey fresh, because at this point, the 49ers are playing for the playoffs, and you want Christian McCaffrey to be as protected as possible.
Yeah, I mean, Christian McCaffrey leads the league in carries alone, and that's not even counting the touches he gets as being the 49ers by far leading receiver as well. And in the chat, someone said, "Stop playing our stars in trash time." And I've talked about this with McCaffrey, especially. It's like, man, he's handled it so far, but can he continue to handle it? 30 touches a game is a lot. That's a workload that a lot of guys can't handle. Christian McCaffrey, with his injury history, and in some cases, I think it's not the smartest thing to do. And at a certain point in the game, I'm kind of with you on that point, that just like, you could filter in some more Brian Robinson, right? End of the game, you're up multiple scores, 3-4 minutes left in the game. That might be the time to drop a hammer, give him a different look. It's not like he's not successful. It's not like, oh man, nobody else can run the ball except for Christian McCaffrey. Brian Robinson has a better yards per carry than Christian McCaffrey, right? Hand the guy the ball and help keep your star fresh, because if you need to ride him that hard when it really matters, you need him to be healthy when it really matters late in the season, especially if you're going to get into a playoff game. And if all of a sudden week 17 he finally breaks down and the wheels come off, then what was the point of all those 30 touch performances throughout the season if he can't make it into the postseason? So I think you do have to be smarter. And as we know, I mean, we can talk about it every single week if we want. It's not the way that they're going to operate. So we can talk about it. It's not going to happen.
In the chat, Niner Nut says we're missing speed in the run game. You think that's something? Because I mean, Kyle Shanahan coming to the 49ers, we saw guys Matt Breida, Raheem Mostert. There was a lot of speed. Now, prior to kind of that type of running back, and you go back to the Redskin days, right? They had Alfred Morris. Like Alfred Morris was not a speed back. He was just more of a, at one cut, pick up, some yards, ran very well. I think he had a 1,600-yard season under Shanahan. But when we saw Matt Breida and you saw Raheem Mostert and you saw even when they got Jet McKinnon and what he was supposed to be for the 49ers, a lot of speed, not quite seeing the speed element from Brian Robinson or Christian McCaffrey. Do you think the 49ers are really missing that part of the run game? Because in this game, 17-yard carry, a 12-yard carry for Robinson, like those were the biggest carries of the game. We have seen, when Raheem Mostert and Breida were there, they were ripping off 80-yard runs, 60-yard runs, 50-yard touchdown runs, and you are not seeing that this year. They noted it on the broadcast, the longest carry of the season so far for the 49ers, 20 yards. That happened last week by Christian McCaffrey, and a lot of people attested to the run blocking ability of the line, but I've seen worse offensive lines for the 49ers and more explosive runs.
Oh, no doubt. It's 100%. Actually, you know what? I think it's a bigger conversation. Let's talk more about that in a second. I want to talk about speed on offense for the 49ers because I think it's absolutely something that you can see on the field. It's in the running game. It's in the passing game. And I saw recently some old clips that just kind of came across my desk on whatever app it was. And it was some old Raheem Mostert, and it was like, whoa, that dude was fast. And it was different. So I want to get into some of that. We got more game balls to give out, more to talk about with the 49ers win over the Panthers on Monday Night Football next. This episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Of course, the NFL season's rolling along, and it is really getting fun now following the standings and looking at the playoff push for all these teams. And there's so many ways to get involved with NFL games on FanDuel, whether it's weekly lines or player props or live in-game betting. But the NBA is back as well, and there's no better place to get in on that action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of a game, want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's the one that's making that late push. So whether it's the NFL, you got hockey, college football, and of course the NBA, right now FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Just head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. On the topic of team speed, Croc, I was kind of blown away. And you watch like guys like Jameer Gibbs, and there's players in the league that have special ability and athletic ability and crazy breakaway speed. I was watching the 49ers offense with Raheem Mostert recently, and it was shocking how fast that guy was. And they would kind of run that outside zone. They'd stretch it out. All of a sudden he would see it. He would hit it. And he was a blur. He was gone in an instant. And the 49ers are absolutely missing the big play part of their run game. And even part of Christian McCaffrey, as awesome as he is. And look, again, Christian McCaffrey's an awesome player, and he deserves to be a massive part of the 49ers offensive game plan, right? And he's more valuable as a receiver, I think, than even as a runner. But the 49ers are missing that. And I was going to say that 17-yard run in this game, I was going to ask, because I didn't catch that part of the broadcast, I was going to ask if that was the longest run of the year for them. But apparently was it 20 yards last week? They had one
last week. Yep.
Okay. So 20 and 17. I think before that was like 15 yards was the longest. And whether it was McCaffrey in 2023 or name any of those other running backs with a lot of speed, it was a big play run game. And the 49ers absolutely have not had that this year, which is a big part of why the yards per carry is sub 4 for the 49ers. But it's at wide receiver as well. And you know, you have some young legs that can't be active for games. And I know there's a lot of other aspects of football that are a lot more important than just having speed on the football field. But I think it's clearly something that's missing. And I don't know if much is going to change this year, but something to possibly address in the off season or just be cognizant of. And of course, now with the Brandon Ayuk stuff and Croc, we haven't even had a chance, both of us together, to talk about the Ayuk stuff. So we're gonna have to get into that later on this week. And it's going to change some of the conversations we're having about the off season in 2026. You know, and I think speed has to be a part of it. And of course, you're not going to bench Christian McCaffrey for just a fast guy at running back, but you know, maybe other ways to get more speed on the football field for the 49ers. Absolutely, they're missing speed right now, whether it's because of Ayuk, whether McCaffrey's a half step slower or not, whether it's other injuries, other players. The 49ers need to add more speed on the football field, clearly on offense.
You think about some of those early teams, and especially kind of like 2018, 2019, and a lot of the speed the 49ers had there. You know, there was Goodwin, Marquise Goodwin.
Yeah.
I mean, just that there's just a threat of the vertical element to his game on top of what they had with guys like Raheem Mostert and Matt Breida and these guys running the rock. I do think the 49ers kind of missed that to be able to open things up a little bit more. The 49ers play very well, but we watched that first drive, right? And I thought it was a terrific first drive. The 49ers were methodical. The 49ers were physical. They were aggressive. But it almost felt as if the 49ers kind of have to play that style where you're, you know, having, you know, 10 to 15 plays. I think it was a 15-play drive, as opposed to just having hitters. And that is the part where I believe the 49ers are missing it just a little bit. So if there is anything that they can do, probably can't change anything about that right now, but adding that element to where maybe it's not as difficult offensively. You mentioned Gibbs, and I don't think that the Lions are playing their best football right now. But one thing that they do always have in their back pocket, whether it pops up in the game or not, is the speed element of Gibbs and Jameson Williams. Like on any given play, those guys can just break something open. And right now, the 49ers just have to work extremely hard to get touchdowns. I think that's difficult for a quarterback. That's difficult for Brock Purdy to always have to be more efficient, a little bit more perfect, to methodically move the ball down the field, as opposed to have guys that can give you a little bit more game-breaking ability.
And that kind of brings me to the Brock Purdy conversation. And obviously, he didn't have his best game. He threw 3 interceptions. Kyle Shanahan was asked about those 3 picks all in the first half, asked about him at halftime. And he said one of the ball was behind the receiver. One ball was a little bit late. He's got to be playing on time. And that's kind of always been the thing with Brock Purdy, is playing on time. But I wonder if, and that's one of Brock Purdy's superpowers, is his anticipation and throwing on time, because he doesn't have in the chat. Purdy had 0 zip. Purdy's never had a lot of zip. That's not his game. He throws with anticipation. He'll throw to a spot before his receiver gets there, and that makes up for his lack of zip. And so sometimes, you know, he has to make certain throws, and you see where the lack of zip kind of comes into play a little bit more. I don't know, maybe he is hindered a little bit, and there's less zip in this week than there was in the past for him, and maybe even less than last week because he's hurting and he's playing through an injury or whatever. I don't know about any of that. But it was just timing. But the other part of it that kind of melds with what we were just talking about, Croc, teams don't respect anything behind them, so they can sit on stuff. And they were clearly jumping things and waiting for those types of throws. And you can definitely put it all on Brock Purdy. But the last pick, the second pick for J.C. Horn, that was a phenomenal play by J.C. Horn, because I was shocked because I didn't catch it live. I mean, I saw the play live, but I didn't see like how it happened. And I just assumed J.C. Horn was the corner on the right side of the 49ers offense covering over there. And then they go to the replay from the end zone camera, and they're like, here's J.C. Horn over here. And I was like, J.C. Horn over there? Well, how did he pick the ball up on the front side of the play when he's just hanging out on the backside? And he comes all the way across the field to make that pick. I can't put that solely on Brock Purdy. A little bit late. Maybe you got to see it. You got to get it out there. I think it was to Pearsall, right? You got to get out there quicker. But that was a pretty amazing play by J.C. Horn. And probably pretty helpful for the 49ers that Horn got concussed, I think, on the interception return, because he never came back after halftime to the football field and was apparently throwing up in the locker room and had concussion symptoms. So that's brutal for JC Horn, who's an awesome football player and was trying to keep the Panthers in that game single-handedly.
Yeah, JC Horn, he, broken tackle by Juwan Jennings, resulting in the touchdown. He was upset with that after the first play, but came back with an interception and obviously another one in the second quarter. The play that you're referencing where he came from the other side and robbed it, there are certain coverages where if a receiver goes away from you, you can freelance and kind of look for work and see if something might be coming back towards you. And he kind of floated in space, saw a big crosser. It was a huge window to throw into. Purdy sees it, lets it go, but never sees JC Horn. So I don't put that one necessarily on Brock Purdy. I thought that was a terrific play, or just the way it played out to where I probably was never going to see that guy. There was one a little bit later, maybe right before halftime, where I felt Brock was not seeing the field necessarily well. It was a middle of the field safety, and there was no route to really hold him. So if you wanted to hold that MOF safety, I have to eye him down to hold him or look something off right. He never did. He just tried to throw it right up the seam to George Kittle. And if the safety was just a little bit taller, a little bit more athletic, it would have been another interception, which would have resulted in 4 in the first half. So those are things where just having more command of the offense, people talk about him, and that's his thing today, seemed to be a little bit off. I don't think it's something that's just rusty, as Benjamin in the chat says, because if you look at over the last 20, 25 games, Brock has turned the ball over at an alarming rate. Like, he's turning the ball over a lot. And last week got away with 2 of them that ended up being dropped, but they kind of made up for it today with throwing 3 interceptions. At some point, I think kind of is who Brock Purdy is. Like, he's kind of a gunslinger. And when it's on, it's on. And when it's off like today, it can get a little weird. But one thing I will give him is he didn't stop slinging it. He came back and he's throwing the rock, and he made some good throws. I talked about the near interception by the middle of the field safety. The play before that did a terrific job of hitting George Kittle up the seam. So at the very least, he didn't shy away from the moment, even though he wasn't seeing the field how he ideally would like to. When a lot of other quarterbacks maybe would have started to shut it down, start seeing them take sacks, he never did that. So I thought at the very least, because he kept throwing it, because he didn't start taking sacks or hold on to the ball, it never put the 49ers kind of behind the 8 ball in the sense of the offense. So I definitely give him a lot of respect for that.
Yeah, and you can say a lot of things about Brock Purdy. You can't say he doesn't have guts, and it's one of the things you love about him. Absolutely, even not having his best game. Still a 49ers win on Monday Night Football. More game balls to give out next.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends over there at Peloton. Look, folks, it's time to break through the busiest time of the year with a brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus that's powered by Peloton IQ. It's Peloton's most elevated technology and equipment yet that gives you real-time guidance, and it gives you endless ways to move, whether you want to work out by yourself or if you want to work out with your favorite instructor, like my personal favorite, Alex Toussaint. He always gets me fired up to tackle the day. And the thing I like about Peloton, it helps me achieve more in less times. They have features that help you plan, stay motivated, track your progress, and Peloton IQ also provides personalized workout plans and recommendations. That's something that I use right now during the busiest time of the year covering the NFL. They plan my workouts for me based on my mood, my vibe, and also my favorite instructors. So make sure you check it out and use it, because it also helps you correct your form in real time, and it maximizes your reps. It counts your reps so that you can do it smarter, safer, and more efficient. Let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
All right. We talked a lot about the interceptions that the Panthers defense collected. What about the San Francisco 49ers just on a run of taking the ball away? Ji'Ayir Brown, 2 interceptions in this football game. He was amped up. There was a lot of talk in this game going on between these 2 games, but I think you got to give some credit to the 49ers secondary in this one. Talked about Teteroa McMillan, one of our keys to victory. You got to keep the rookie in check. They did for the most part. Got Renardo Green on the touchdown. That was a nice little throw and catch there. And I do think maybe Bryce Young on that play did have a little shoulder shake and was able to keep the safety off of that route and through the touchdown pass. But otherwise, the safety played a really good game. Mustafa with the stop, but Ji'Ayir Brown gets the game ball with the 2 interceptions, Croc.
He played with a lot of energy, and not just in the pass game, but in the run game as well. He took those passes away. It wasn't like, oh, the quarterback, and he had to go make the play. And that was awesome to see, especially on the goal line. Like, he took away 7 points from Carolina Panthers. Now, I thought Bryce Young should have ran the ball in and probably had a clear path to get the corner of the end zone. But whatever, you want to make a stupid decision, throw the ball in the back of the end zone. Shout out to Ji'Ayir Brown coming down with that play. But 2 really big plays. The other one, jumping that dig route on thrown by Teteroa McMillan. I thought that was a terrific play by Ji'Ayir Brown.
Phenomenal game there. Do you have any game balls that you want to give out here, Croc? There was, I think, a number of things you could point to for the 49ers. I think the run defense came up pretty big. It was an interesting game because Rico Dowdle was another one of those players, and it's like, if you're the Panthers and you're a Panthers fan right now, you're probably cursing the coaching staff, saying, like, how could you not get Teteroa McMillan involved more? Only 2 catches. He did have 7 targets, though. So, I mean, you love that ratio if you're the 49ers secondary. Their number 1 guy gets 7 targets, only catches 2 of those balls, even though one of them was a touchdown. Rico Dowdle, only 6 carries in this game. Chuba Hubbard, 3 carries. But they were both they were 6.3 and 5.3 yards per carry. Like, could they have not tried to get a little bit more going on the ground? Did they try to lean too much on Bryce Young, who I just don't think is that dude? It was kind of a weird game plan almost for the Carolina Panthers, and it didn't stress the 49ers defense. Was that even the 49ers defense is doing, or was that the Panthers just not being good?
Well, it felt like, especially early in the first half, or excuse me, during the first half, it was just the flow of the game. Like, the 49ers ate up a lot of the clock on their first drive. I believe when Panthers finally touched the ball, there was about 7 minutes left in the first quarter. All right, so you had an 8-minute drive or however long that was. Then after that, Carolina, although they had a few interceptions in that first half, it felt like they didn't have the ball very much. I'd be curious to know how many plays they actually ran in the first half of this game, because it even with them not really running the ball a whole lot, Bryce Young had 29 passing attempts. So, I mean, you do the math here.
I've got it right here.
42 total plays. 42 total plays.
ESPN has 43 total plays. So 70 to 43 total plays, according to ESPN. How many of those were in the first half? Probably fewer than half of those. So they have 20 plays in the first half then?
Maybe. I felt like they moved the ball much better in the second half than they did in the first half, although it didn't lead to a bunch of points. But I think that was the issue for Rico Dowdle. Now, they came out at halftime. He ran the ball well. He had like a 17-yard carry. And then I'm not sure he got another carry for the rest of the game. Now, that's weird. It's like you come out, you're moving the ball, you're doing well, and then, all right, now Rico Dowdle just doesn't see the ball again. And that's for a guy who, coming into this game, was getting 18, 19 carries per game, it felt like.
1 of 7 on third downs for the Carolina Panthers, which is a really big number again. And the 49ers, it's not like they were really pressuring Bryce Young that much, right? I think the 49ers defensive line did an okay job, and there was some pressure there, and they were trying to keep him in the pocket. But 1 of 7 on third downs. I mean, that's the number right there. If you want to point to something for this football game, 1 third down conversion for the Carolina Panthers in the entire night. It's hard to run a lot of plays.
49ers defense, and Bryce Huff doing a good job of moving Bryce Young off of his spot several times in this game.
Yeah. Bryce Huff, it probably won't show up in the box score. Let me see what the exact box score says for Bryce Huff. The 49ers did have the 1 sack. That was Cleveland Farrell. The box score probably will not show the impact that Bryce Huff had on the game. 1 tackle. 2 2 quarterback hits. So he did hit Bryce Young twice, 1 tackle. But yeah, he's definitely been the most important piece on the defensive line for his ability by himself to go get pressure on the opposing quarterback, because 49ers literally don't have another guy that can do that.
Peacock, in the chat, we have Mark here, and he says, any thoughts on why Pearsall is such a non-factor since he returned? And it did feel like they tried to get the ball in his hands more in this game, and it just didn't quite work out. 2 interceptions that in this game where passes were thrown at him. The one in the end zone, obviously probably a little bit late. The other one where it was a terrific play by J.C. Horn. Those are 2 attempts. I believe he got a carry late in the game as well that got them to kind of that 4th and 1 situation. So I do think they're trying to do different things to get the ball in his hands or get him a little bit more involved. We talk about it right now as him being a non-factor, and then next week, before you know it, he's having 6 catches for 120 yards. It's kind of just the way things work for the 49ers pass catchers.
Yeah, I think this game, and we talked about it in our keys to victory, this wasn't going to be a Ricky Pearsall game. So I'm not that shocked that that he only had one.
Well, that's because we thought J.C. Horn would be on him.
That's true. Yeah, we didn't think that J.C. Horn was going to be picking off balls from the opposite side of the field, even when they do throw the ball to Ricky Pearsall. But so I don't know. We'll see. He had this stretch last year. It was the same, where it was kind of the same part of the season where he was getting his cardio in, and all of a sudden he started being a lot bigger part of the offense. I don't know if it's just because he was out and Kyle Shanahan's not as comfortable building the game plan around him in the passing game as he was earlier on in the season. I don't know. It's a great question, but they didn't need him in this game. Now, if it was the opposite score and the 49ers were losing 20-9 and forcing the ball to Christian McCaffrey and not utilizing Ricky Pearsall, I'd probably have bigger questions about it. But if the 49ers are going to do anything this year and they're going to be a playoff team, they're going to have to utilize Ricky Pearsall, and he's going to have some games. And I think there's going to be some more balance in the offense moving forward, a little bit more balance in the offense moving forward than just all Christian McCaffrey all the time, which is kind of what this game was.
Yeah.
Any other game balls before we go, Croc?
Nick Martin, forced fumble, special teams. Maybe Sky Moore, another big return to help set up good field position. So, and then the field goal kicker. 49 just brought in Gay, and he went 2 for 2, made his extra point. So I'd say let's give a game ball overall to special teams.
Yeah, there you go. Special teams game ball here. That is a rarity at Locked On 49ers in recent years. So big win for the Niners. NFC win helps for the tiebreakers, puts the 49ers in a really good spot at 8-4 with 5 more to play. More from Croc and I about this game. We'll start talking about the Week 13 schedule, and we've got to talk more about Brandon Ayuk as well this week. So stay tuned here. Make sure you're subbed up everywhere. Thanks for making us your first listen, and thanks for making the Locked On Network the #1 sports podcast network.